Hello everyone and welcome back to another reaction video. Today we are looking at the Unbiased History of Rome, Part 4, The Conquest of Italy. So let's get going.
You know, whenever I want to feel truly disgusted, I usually take a look at a map of Italy from the 4th century. Gauls to the north, Greeks to the south, and an unholy mix of Etruscans, Umbrians, and Samnites in the middle. Absolutely disgusting. And it is with those fucking Samnites where the wars for Italy's fate would start. They lived in the Apennine Mountains.
Yes, now during the early years of the Republic, around 340-ish to 290 BC, Rome fought a series of wars against the Italian peoples, chiefly against the Samnites and the Latins. Now, the Samnites were located in south-central Italy, and this first Samnite War, as it would be called, was fought over the control of Campania, at this time the richest region in Italy, and it would remain that way for the duration of the Republic and the Empire, and even up until modern times. Campania is still regarded as one of the richest regions, not only in Italy, but in the world. So this was a very important thing for Rome's future expansion.
Often raiding the lower plains of Campania and taking cities like Capua. Rome went the extra mile to civilize those savages, but couldn't reach the hill tribes. This disparity was the spark of the First Samnite War. Capua couldn't defend itself, so called in Rome, whom easily broke the Samnite siege, placing a garrison of plebeian soldiers in the city. Yeah, you saw it coming. Capua eventually revolted against Rome, and the plebs soldiers took the opportunity to demand higher pay. Now, it wouldn't have been a problem had it not started.
Yes, the chief result of the First Samnite War is that Rome expanded its influence into the plains of Campania, and they made an alliance with the city-state of Capua. Capua would become the second most important city in the Republic, so this was a very crucial moment in the early expansions of Italy, within Italy, so to speak.
Started a Latin rebellion with it. The Romans were forced to stop the war, rushing back home and crushing the Latins near the Vesuvius, using the Samnites as meat shields at that. If you're asking how the Samnites could be dumb enough to accept this, it is because you haven't met one. With peace restored, the Romans...
Yes, after the conclusion of the First Samnite War came the so-called Latin War, which was fought over a period of 2 years. Now, the Latins had been a people that had been gradually put under Roman domination throughout the monarchy and the early republic, and now they took advantage of the fact that Rome has just finished a war with the Samnites to try to shake off Roman domination. Of course, this does not work, and the Romans quickly crushed this rebellion. Now, the Latins were organized into something called the Latin League. It was sort of a confederation of about 30 villages and tribes in the region of Latium. Now, these were organized for the purpose of mutual defense, but this rebellion, as I said, was put down very quickly, and it ended in the complete dissolution of this league, and its territory was incorporated into Rome, but some Latin states were given partial rights and varying levels of citizenship. Now, Rome annexed some of these states outright, but others remained bound to Rome through a series of separate bilateral treaties, and this would become the model Rome would use for future expansions. So when they took over one place, they made some separate treaties with the local leaders and tribes and brought them under their vassalage. So some direct annexation, but often they were made into vassal states.
began granting citizenships left and right to the Latins, using them to build colonies further south, even crossing the border with Samnium. They wouldn't stop complaining over it, but the Romans couldn't give two shits about it. And then we have Neapolis, a Greek colony, in case you were wondering why it's such a shit city today.
Yes, what would provoke the Second Samnite War was that Rome started settling or colonizing into Samnium itself, and this, what we call it, Fragile. Yeah, this colony deeply upset the Samnites, and now Rome is about to be dragged into war with the city of Neapolis, and that will end it will end with the fact that Romans take control of Neapolis. It comes under the Roman sphere of influence, and this provokes the Second Samnite War.
Reaching for war, the Samnites placed a garrison in Neapolis, agitating it to attack the Roman colonies, thus starting the Second Samnite War, getting us to the first Roman hero of today, Quintus Fabius Maximus Rullianus.
Yes, some of you who have watched the Hannibal series may know about a certain Fabius Maximus, and if you're wondering, yes, this is the great ancestor of the Fabian Maximus who would become so famous during the Second Punic War against Hannibal.
Led his men to victory in Samnium, while Neapolis fell to Rome and the consuls led the legions further into enemy territory. Getting so wrecked in the war, the Samnites started pleading for peace, and just before the consuls could respond, they were surrounded, stuck within the Apennine Mountains. The Romans tried carving their way through, but the endless hordes were too much. To save their men's lives, the consuls surrendered. The Samnites relished in their deceitful victory, stripping the Romans of their weapons, walking them under the yoke, and taking their lands. With such a humiliating defeat, it was time for a change. So far, the Romans had used the phalanx, invented by their Trojan ancestors, but it wouldn't do anymore. With the unparalleled intellect of Rome's greatest minds, they substituted the phalanx with the brilliant maniple system.
Yes. Now it turns out fighting in the rugged terrain of Samnium was not very conducive to the then Roman style of war, using the phalanx system, which they had inherited partly from the Etruscans, but also from the Greeks. And now they brought this maniple system into being, and this manipular system, as it would be called, remained into effect until the Marian reforms of 107 BC, so it remained in place for more than 200 years basically, where it was replaced by the cohort unit, but that's a story for another time. Long story short, this maniple system proved much better at handling the terrain and gave the Roman formations more flexibility in combat.
The legions were divided into 120 men-strong maniples, organized sparsely to better navigate rough terrain. In front lay the hastati, the official plebeian meat shields. At the center, the principes, where the experienced patricians put up the real effort. And behind were the veteran triarii, the elite alpha males, used only when truly needed. Now, back in the war, the Romans were attacked by the Etruscans, whom were promptly obliterated by Rullianus. The Samnites in turn were all kicked out of Campania, suing for peace, real this time. Victorious once more, the Romans cemented their victory by building the Appian Way, a road that led to Rome, the first of many. But success does breed jealousy, lots of it, equally shared by the Samnites, Etruscans, Umbrians and Gauls, all uniting in a coalition to make Rome burn again.
Yes. Now, this is the Third Samnite War, and basically this apparently broke out when the Samnites attempted to ally with the Lucanians, another tribal people, basically. Well, when this failed, the Samnites marched north and allied with the Etruscans and the Umbrians, and this was successful, and they all declare war on Rome in an attempt to, wipe them out from the map completely this time. Unfortunately, they had, by this point, badly underestimated Roman military superiority, as many would do in the years to come.
Camillus might not have been around anymore, but you know who was? Cornelius Scipio Barbatus, the first of many as well.
Yes. You surely heard of the Scipio name before. If not, you will hear it a lot more in the next episode, which is about the Punic Wars. But the Scipio family would become one of the most preeminent patrician families of Rome. So, look out for them.
Admittedly, this one didn't do too much. Him and Fulvius did kill some barbarians, but it's the next year's consuls who get the real fame. Back to Flavius Maximus Rullianus and his friend Publius Decius Mus. Rullianus did his specialty, devastating the Etruscans, while Decius did the same with Samnium. The war culminated in the Battle of Sentinum, where Decius and Fabius led the legions against the barbarian coalition. The Romans charged furiously at the enemy, barely using...
Yes. The Third Samnite War climaxed at the Battle of Sentinum, and what happened here basically was, before the battle, the Romans had started raiding the Etruscan and Umbrian lands, and that forced them to detach large parts of their armies, send them back to defend their homeland, basically. And that left these two consuls in a much better position than they would have been otherwise. and we will see the outcome of this battle shortly, I assume.
Their pricky pace. As the battle raged, the left flank began to waver against the ceaseless Gallic spam of chariots, being too cowardly to actually fight on the field. Seeing the danger, Decius led a suicidal charge against them, sacrificing himself to buy time. Given the opportunity, Fabius sent...
Yes, this sacrifice is one of the most famous ones, a very legendary event that happened during the Battle of Sentinum.
Half of the Triadi to save the left flank, and the other half to rout the Samnites. As they fled the field and the Romans set pursuit, Fabius sent the Triadi to surround the Gauls, slaughtering them all, retribution for the sack of Rome, which will only be fully avenged in the centuries to come. Oh, how I wait. Triumphant a third time, Rome annexed all of central Italy, now the master of the peninsula, with two exceptions, those being the Gauls up north, whose time will come, and the Greeks down south in Magna Graecia. The resulting few years of peace ended soon after, for while Rome was mediating a dispute in a Greek city with their navy, Tarentum completely chimped out and attacked them.
Yes. So what happened here is that the city of Thurii appealed to help from Rome because they were dealing with attacks from Lucanians and Bruttians. But while they were at Thurii with their fleet, the people of Tarentum, their fleet attacked the Roman ones. But, they quickly realized that they had awakened the fury of Rome, and so they appealed for help for a very famous general, which I'm sure will be mentioned right about now.
Over some ancient maritime treaty or some bullshit excuse. Surely, the Greeks in Tarentum weren't stupid enough to deny paying the reparations, right? If you're asking that, it's because you don't know one. Sure enough, war it was. And Tarentum immediately pleaded for help from mainland Greece. Now, I won't waste your time with the utterly insane shit-flinging mess that was Greek politics by then. Safe to say, there was a kingdom called Epirus, led by a Greek king named Pyrrhus. It had 20,000 Greeks, 20 Indian war elephants, and nothing to fucking do. So
yes, Pyrrhus of Epirus is one of the most famous commanders in history for the worst reasons, I would say. But he considered himself an equal of Alexander the Great, and he was a relative of Alexander the Great, but he was no Alexander the Great.
When he heard Tarentum bitching, off he went to Italy. The tricky thing is that Pyrrhus' army was all equipped with top-notch equipment they looted from Trojan ruins, managing to put up a fight with Rome at Heraclea. But once they started to lose, off went Pyrrhus, spamming his elephants until forcing a victory. Yeah, victory. The kind where you suffer massive casualties and can only win by spamming living tanks in the battle. Call it a Pyrrhic.
Yes, this is where the term Pyrrhic victory comes from. A victory that is so costly it might as well have been a loss. And this is where we get that from.
Victory. Pyrrhus did live to his Greek genes though, sacking and genociding every shred of civilization he could on his way to Rome. He took one good look at the Servian walls and fucked off to Ascalon, where he met with the Romans again. He was about to lose, but then spammed his elephants and forced a retreat. At least he admitted this time that one more such victory and they were fucked. Maybe that's why he decided to fuck off to Sicily. No one really knows. Killing Greeks was simply much easier, I suppose. He did fight Carthage while over there, but I'll save my hatred towards them for the next video. Once done in Sicily, Pyrrhus decided to sack an Italian temple of Proserpina, Persephone, in barbarian speech, sending the ship with the loot home, only for Jupiter to bolt it. Some divine justice at last. After everything that happened, Pyrrhus actually returned to Italy. Maybe he was hoping to force another victory. But his cheese strats were already figured out, getting kicked out back to Greece. Victorious, fourth, fifth time? Yeah, the Latin word counts. A fifth time, Rome annexed the Greek lands of Magna Graecia, now bringing civilization to almost all of Italy. Quite a bloody chapter in Roman history.
Yes, indeed. An extremely bloody chapter of Roman history, and while it looks like it went fast in this video, it was a very long process indeed.
But you've seen nothing yet. For the next time, we will cover the Punic Wars, where Dido's curse goes into full effect.
Ah yes, the Punic Wars, perhaps one of the most famous chapters of the Republic and Roman history overall. I'm looking forward to that, but until then, if you have anything to add to this video, please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you later.